In an unprecedented move, China has halted all trade with the United States, a decision that has sent shockwaves throughout the global financial markets. The ripple effects of this decision have the potential to plunge the U.S. economy into a deep recession, and its ramifications will likely reverberate across the globe. The move has left analysts, economists, and policymakers scrambling to understand the consequences of what appears to be the biggest geopolitical economic shock of the 21st century. To understand the magnitude of China's decision, it's essential to first grasp the depth of the trade relationship between China and the U.S. For decades, the U.S. and China have been intertwined in what many term as the most significant economic partnership in the world. The United States imports more goods from China than any other country, while China, in turn, is one of the largest purchasers of American products. From electronics to textiles and agricultural produce to machinery, the bilateral trade dynamics have been largely beneficial for both nations. Yet, beneath the surface, tensions have been simmering for years. Accusations of intellectual property theft, unfair trade practices, and issues concerning human rights and territorial disputes have frequently marred the diplomatic landscape. Economic sanctions and tit-for-tat tariffs have, on occasion, interrupted this profitable exchange. However, no one predicted a complete shutdown of trade. The immediate aftermath of China's decision saw a nosedive in stock markets worldwide. The Dow Jones, Nasdaq, and S&P 500 all experienced sharp declines not seen since the financial crisis of 2008. The American agricultural sector, a primary exporter to China, was one of the hardest hit. Soybean farmers, pork producers, and a myriad of other agricultural enterprises braced themselves for a hard-hitting season of unsold products and plummeting prices. Simultaneously, American consumers felt the pinch. China, often dubbed the world's factory, is a primary source for myriad consumer goods, ranging from electronics to toys. With supply chains disrupted, shelves in retail stores across the U.S. began emptying out. Prices of alternative goods, not dependent on Chinese imports, began to rise, a phenomenon that economists fear could lead to stagflation, a combination of stagnant economic growth and high inflation. However, the ramifications of China's decision aren't just limited to the United States. The global economic structure is an intricate web of interdependencies, and China's trade cessation with the U.S. has disrupted multiple nodes in this network. Other countries that are a part of the global supply chain, which either sourced materials from China to manufacture goods for the U.S. or vice versa, are now feeling the pinch. Nations in Southeast Asia, which were increasingly becoming a vital cog in the global manufacturing process, are now grappling with halted production lines and unsold inventories. European nations, too, are feeling the heat. While not directly involved, the EU's trade with both the US and China is significant. With two of its largest trading partners at loggerheads, the economic growth of the European bloc is now under threat. On the other side of the equation, China isn't immune to the consequences of its drastic decision. The cessation of trade means that China has lost its most lucrative export market. Its manufacturing sector, the backbone of its economic rise, is now facing massive headwinds. Many wonder why China would make such a move. Some analysts believe it to be a hard-nosed negotiation tactic, a display of economic muscle to get the U.S. to back down on certain issues. Others think it to be a calculated risk, with China hoping to pivot more towards domestic consumption and decrease its dependency on exports. As the shockwaves of China's decision rippled across international borders, global leaders rushed to respond. Many nations, seeing the potential fallout of a protracted trade cessation, called for calm and restraint. International forums and summits, usually reserved for scheduled discussions, began hosting emergency meetings to address this growing crisis. Countries like Japan, South Korea, Australia, and Canada, all of whom have strong trade ties with both the U.S. and China, began deliberating on potential mediation roles. Their economies, while not directly in the line of fire, stand to be collateral damage in this trade war. These nations realize that a compromise needs to be reached swiftly, not just for the sake of the U.S. and China, but for the global economic order. Multinational corporations, many of whom have supply chains spanning both nations, were among the first to react. Companies began to explore alternative supply sources, with countries like India, Vietnam and Mexico being viewed as potential substitutes for manufacturing hubs. Tech giants like Apple, heavily reliant on Chinese manufacturing for products like iPhones, faced significant stock price drops. The automotive industry, with its intricate web of part suppliers spread across the globe, also felt immediate disruptions. Yet, in this adversity, there's potential for innovation. Businesses are now looking at more resilient supply chain models with a focus on decentralization. The idea is to ensure that a disruption in one part of the world doesn't halt operations globally. If this trade cessation persists, the global economic landscape could be forever altered. A prolonged halt could catalyze a shift in global trade dynamics, reducing the centrality of the US-China trade axis. Emerging economies could see this as an opportunity to position themselves as alternatives to China's manufacturing might or the US's consumer market. Additionally, the importance of regional trade agreements might rise. We could witness a stronger push for trade pacts, like the European Union's single market or the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for Trans-Pacific Partnership, as nations look for more predictable and stable trade environments. Beyond the numbers, charts, and trade balances, it's essential to remember the human impact of such a drastic move. Millions of jobs, in both the US and China, are at risk. Small businesses, farmers, and factory workers stand to be the hardest hit. The dream of prosperity, a cornerstone of both American and Chinese societies, now hangs in the balance for many. In times of economic hardships, social tensions can escalate. There's a very real risk that the blame game could exacerbate xenophobic sentiments or lead to internal societal conflicts. Leaders and influencers have a crucial role in guiding public opinion towards understanding and unity, rather than division. While the economic dimensions of this trade shutdown are palpable, the technological ramifications are just as significant, if not more so. China and the US are the epicenters of technological innovation, often setting the tone for the rest of the world. Their combined efforts in areas like artificial intelligence, 5G technology, and biotech have propelled humanity into a new era of possibilities. Without collaboration in trade, there's a risk that the world may move towards technological bifurcation. We could see the rise of two distinct technological ecosystems, with different standards, protocols, and platforms. Such a split would be disruptive for global businesses and would limit the free flow of innovation. China's decision has geopolitical implications that extend far beyond commerce. It signifies a shift in the world's power dynamics. For years, the US has been the uncontested global superpower, both economically and militarily. However, China's rise over the past few decades has been meteoric, challenging the established order. This trade cessation might be indicative of China's assertion of its newfound global stature. By flexing its economic muscle, China sends a clear message. It is no longer the emerging economy of yesteryears, but a dominant force on the world stage. Amidst the political and economic discussions, another crucial aspect has emerged: the environmental impact. Global supply chains, as they stand today, have a significant carbon footprint due to the transportation of goods across vast distances. A reshuffling of these networks might temporarily increase emissions as new infrastructures are put in place and goods are rerouted through longer or less efficient paths. Moreover, a shift in manufacturing hubs can lead to differing environmental regulations being applied. Countries with less stringent environmental controls might become hotspots for manufacturing, potentially exacerbating global climate challenges. The path forward is uncertain. Diplomats from both nations are working feverishly behind the scenes to chart a course of resolution. Many believe that this trade cessation cannot be prolonged, given the deep economic scars it will leave on both nations. The international community, led by organizations like the United Nations and the World Trade Organization, is urging both parties to return to the negotiation table. A prolonged trade war, which this can quickly escalate into, could set global economic growth back by decades. In conclusion, China's decision to shut down all trade with the US is more than just a bilateral issue. It's a global concern, with repercussions that touch every corner of the world. It underscores the importance of diplomacy, negotiation, and international cooperation in today's intricately connected global economy. Both nations, and the world at large, are hoping for a swift resolution.